the Morris Minor has got what it takes to make a small car big. Well, I never thought that I would be driving a Morris Minor after driving a VW, but I didn't have a car, and my girlfriend's mother at the time kindly lent me her Morris Minor to drive around in, and the irony was that she went and bought a VW Beetle, which she never went back after that. Anyway, so I drove around in this Morris Minor, which were nice little cars. But whenever I see a Morris Minor, I always think of an old film that was made in 1953 called Genevieve, and it was about the London to Brighton comedy, London to Brighton run, and it was featured a 1904 Durac car. And I always think of the theme tune when I see a Morris Minor, which was played by a famous mouth organ specialist, harmonica specialist called Larry Adler. Most people haven't heard of him nowadays. And the theme tune absolutely epitomises the romance and also the breaking downness and the unpretentiousness of the Morris Minor. I'm not very good at that, am I? Well, Moggie, as it's known, was a car that came out after the war, designed by Alec Sigonis before he designed the Mini. And it was very popular, and it was a sort of like last gasp of empire. You could see pictures of them in Singapore and the Sudan, all over the place, and they would go along. They weren't very quick cars. So you had to remember that. I mean, it was nothing like the VW Beetle, but it had a charm to it, and it was quite roomy. And the first time I went in one was when we went down to London. I think it was 1960 or 59 motor show, and I was taken down by my mother's boyfriend, John Rhodes. He actually was called John Rhodes. And we drove down the newly opened 5960, newly opened M1 again, and first time I was on it. We went in a Morris Minor 1000 because he worked in a garage, and he'd actually got this car for nothing for the weekend, as far as I know. And we went down to London in this thing, and at one point we got up to about 68 miles an hour, but normally you'd cruise in a car like that at about 60, and it was perfectly all right. But I looked down my nose at it a bit years later when I was driving German cars and things like that. But they had a charm, and particularly when they're in the form where they had the half-timbered ones that came out with these are the sort of estate cars. And of course the drop heads, the convertible little Morris Minors, and nowadays they fetch a lot of money. You know, they are collector's items, and you know, I could say that Britain's best loved old timer has to be a Morris Minor. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. By 1971, when I got this Morris Minor, was that you kept seeing them breaking down everywhere, not just as post office ones, a lot of that, even the police cars there were, and the district nurse's car they called it. But one of the weaknesses in the car was the front suspension, the trunnions as they call them, and they used to snap, so you'd often come around a corner and you see a little old Moggie, and the front suspension had just snapped off, and that was quite common. You'd see that all over the country actually, if you're looking out for Morris Minors that were looking a bit worse for wear. It's usually on a corner where somebody's turning the road. You know, like this, had a pipe on. You turn around, whoa, and the front suspension when the trunnion snapped, and of course you had to get the air out or the RAC. But I liked them very much, but they weren't a sort of serious car. You couldn't bat up. I mean, there were no autobahn meter. You just had to sort of like Moggie around it, really. But I did like them. I had a charm to them, as I say. And there was one occasion when I was driving back. I had an exhibition in 1971. It was in Greenwich, at the Greenwich Theatre. And I was driving back. I think it was from the opening, or maybe it's after we put the show up or taken it down. I can't remember. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. And we got to the Elephant and Castle, near the Elephant and Castle. Actually, no, it was right in front of the Imperial War Museum. There's sort of like a one-way system round there. And it was late at night, like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, something like that. And I was driving the old Moggie round the corner like this, you see. And anyway, this Hillman Hunter came right across my front, like this, not stopping. He should have given way, but he didn't. And he hit the front of the Moggie and took the front fender, the front bumper off. And I was absolutely furious, and I pulled into the side of the road, and they stopped in the middle of the road, and this Hillman Hunter did, and stood. A burly guy got out, and I thought, oh my God. And then another burly guy got out, and I thought, shit, what am I going to do here? And I stood there, I said, oh, I want to take your number, and car number down, and all the rest of it. What are you doing driving like that? And he sort of looked a bit sheepish, and he said, no, he says, you were in the wrong, sir. I wasn't in the wrong at all. And anyway, the problem was there were two big burly guys on the back seat of the car. So there were four big guys. One of these looking out the window at me, and I said, "You know what? I'm going to call the police." And the man looked me up and down. And he says, "We are the police."